So email best practices. This is sort of a two-part presentation talking about what I initially did over the past 4 years to get out of spam jail, essentially, and then what I have been essentially doing the past 2 weeks to get out of spam jail again, after I noticed I got caught again in spam jail. So, oh darn, I wish I could control from that page. I'm going to toggle back and forth. Okay, so talking about what I initially did, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago now. I set up a paid email account. So what I mean by like a paid email account is I no longer use an email that ends in like gmail.com. So I don't use like elena@gmail.com or at AOL.com or yahoo.com to send any emails anymore, whether I'm sending it directly from my personal email account or through a CRM or through any sort of third-party emailing provider. Does everyone here use a paid email account, or does anyone still use some sort of free email account?
Paid.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Elena. But yeah,
Are you going to say something, or are you just saying hi?
No, I said I use paid, because I've done that for many years. It's a Gmail workforce program, but yeah, it's all paid, which is great.
Oh, I thought you said hey. You said paid. Okay, great. Yeah, so it was always best practice to have paid, but it was officially back in February of last year where everything changed with email providers, where they really cracked down on the rules, where you really did not want to use a free email account anymore, especially if you're hooking it up to a CRM or to emailing marketing platform. So hopefully by now no one's using a free email account. If not, I highly recommend either doing it yourself if you consider yourself tech savvy, or hiring SH Consulting to do it. I tried doing it myself and somehow I screwed it up. And so then I ended up hiring SH Consulting. So I got my whole email account blocked when I tried it. I don't know how. I was following all of the instructions and then thought I was tech savvy, but somehow messed it up. So that was part one.
Smart enough, Elena, to be on this call, because I don't think I even know the difference between a paid and a free account. I just use my kw.com email. Is that paid or free?
It's paid, but it's provided by your brokerage. So I would say like 50% there. The downside to using your broker provided email is they don't have all of the security that you need with your email account and the deliverability. You're relying on your brokerage to have all of the, I don't know all the lingo, but you're relying on your brokerage to have all of the protocols within your email provider to have your deliverability set up properly. So I know from other people I've spoken to who rely on like a KW account or Coldwell Banker or just any broker provided email account, your deliverability is not going to be as good as it could be if it's your own personal. So like own personal being steve@stevestinson.com instead of steve@kw.com. So buying your own domain at like godaddy.com, for example, instead of using steve@kw.com.
Okay.
Step 2 was using best practices for creating the emails. So I really had to strip down the email content I was writing. I couldn't use pretty heavy formatted emails anymore. The heavier formatted emails were going to promotional folders or were still going to spam folders. So I had to remove all of the pictures and the HTML formatting, all of the heavy graphics and logos and headers and footers, all the pretty stuff that makes you feel good. Had to remove all of that stuff and go with plain text emails, and also removed the number of links I was using. Reduced the number of links I was using, and that count is included in the links you use in your email signature. So if you like to have a pretty email signature that has all of your social links in there, like you want to have your Facebook link and your LinkedIn link and your Instagram link, and you have the circle buttons or whatever it is, each time you have one of those links, that's counted against you. And it's best practice to have 3 or less total in an email, including the one in your email signature. So that's just something to consider, is Once an email provider sees that you're sending more than three links, that knocks you down in your email deliverability of going to promotion folders initially. So like, I don't know if you use Gmail or if you've ever seen Gmail, a lot of times Gmail automatically categorizes emails based on their algorithm. And if it detects that something is promotional or business, you're automatically getting moved from the primary inbox over to like the business or promotional emails. So if you want to avoid that business folder, reduce the number of links you use. So that was part 2 of what I started doing several years ago. So literally my emails are super simple. It's just plain text, a couple of sentences, asking a simple question. This is just an example of what an email says for an initial buyer inquiry of 2 sentences with their name, and I ask a question because I want to get a response from the lead. And then here's an example of like a batch or a newsletter email. Again, it's not pretty. We don't have a nice border anymore that's heavily formatted like you would see with like a traditional newsletter, but our deliverability greatly increased whenever we just use plain text. And you can see like we don't have any social links. If we do, it has maybe 1 or 2. It's our like Facebook link and our YouTube link. And we only have 1 link in this email. It's the link to register for our call. And then there's a link below to our website in the email signature itself. Then the phone number is clickable, and then the email is clickable on the bottom. And then there were other best practices that we have been following for the past 5 years or so. We only email opt-in leads. We don't do any sort of cold reach out. So like we don't do any sort of you wouldn't do any sort of cold reach out via email to a list of people that are like expireds or FSBOs. You can use like a dialer like Mojo or something to call those expireds and FSBOs. You can use postcards, things like that. But if you want to protect the reputation of your email so you don't hurt it, you don't get bounces or anything like that, or people reporting you as spam, only email people who have opted in. And when I say opt in, it's people filling out a form or coming in through an ad or any type of lead provider, basically. Segment your lists. So don't batch everyone in your database at once. We send to like 100, 200, 3 people at a time, not more than that. And then I avoid spam trigger words. I'll send you a link to this article afterward, but I'm not perfect because this list is ridiculous. But these are common like words that can trigger your email to go to the spam folders or at least promotional folders. And sometimes it's a combination of words. It's not like one single word, but it's when you use a combination of a phrase like 100% free. So not necessarily the word free, but when you combine 100% free is when email providers detect you might be a spammer or a scammer. So I'll send you a link to that article afterward. So after I implemented all of this about 5 years ago, so everything went really well. All of our emails were going through, our response rates were really high, our deliverability rate was really high. But then about 5 months ago, I started, it wasn't alarming because it was just every now and then I started receiving reports from leads or clients that our emails weren't going through. And the only reason I knew about that is because my initial communication was not through email. My initial communication was organic through a text message from someone coming to us directly or through Facebook saying, hey, I'd love to learn more about what you do. And then I would say, hey, I just sent you an email. Did you receive it? And at first, most people would say, yes, I receive it. And then every now and then someone would say, no, I can't find it. And at first, I wasn't alarmed because it was so rare. But then it started to ramp up more and more where people said, I can't find your email. Or some people said, oh, I found it. It was in my junk or my spam. And I had been signed up for a weekly report. It's called like a DMARC policy or DMARC report, where it would send me a report every week for the past 7 days of my deliverability. And you can see like how many emails total our company sent for the week. So that's manually, that's through newsletter, that's through drip campaigns or action plans. We got processed 8,300 emails with 100% deliverability. So most weeks was a 99% to 100% deliverability. Before it was like 95%, and then we've just been following best practice as best we can, so it didn't make sense. Why were our emails either not delivering at all of a sudden or going to spam, but then this report was not reflecting that. And it was just getting worse and worse. So then about a month ago or 2 months ago, I reached back out to Alex at SH Consulting, and I learned a few things. So when I would send an email out from my personal Gmail account, so like even though I have a paid email that's elena@keetechnology.com, I still use Gmail for that. When I would send an email directly out of Gmail from that Elena at Kee Technology, the emails would send just fine. They wouldn't go to spam. They wouldn't get undelivered. It would go directly to the primary folder. When I would send from my CRM, Follow Up Boss, with the exact same email address that's connected to Follow Up Boss, Elena at Kee Technology, to the exact same person, I was doing A/B tests. I'm like, okay, I'm going to send an email from Gmail, this exact same email. I'm going to send it from Gmail here. Did you get it? Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to send that exact same email from my exact same email address from Follow Up Boss. Did you get it? 50% of the time they would say yes, and 50% of the time they would say no. And I learned from Alex that it's because when you send an email through action plan or batch email from Follow Up Boss uses, and a lot of other CRMs, they use their own SendGrid account or something similar in the background. And the purpose of using something like SendGrid or some other type of email provider, it may not always be SendGrid, just depending on your CRM if you don't use Follow Up Boss. The purpose of using something like SendGrid in the background is to protect the reputation. So that these platforms like SendGrid, they allow you the ability to send emails in high volume. Without it, you wouldn't be able to send emails in high volume. So SendGrid's a good thing. However, when you're using SendGrid or some other type of backend email provider that's provided by your CRM, rather than one that you've signed up for yourself, you don't have as much control. Oh, I thought I had another slide in between. Oh, there it is. You don't have as much control over the deliverability because it's not connected to your own domain, and it's not connected to your own domain's reputation. So this is part 2 of what I've started doing because I was like, I really need to get down to this because I don't know, somewhere between 30% and 40% of our emails are going to spam again. So I needed to take the reins and sign up for our own SendGrid account. That's something that Alex at SH Consulting recommended. He said, you need to sign up for your own SendGrid account. So SendGrid is still what he recommends, but it needs to be our own. And that we need to do something called warming it up. We need to start sending emails slowly to small groups of people, warm up our domain connected to SendGrid and warm it up slowly so that we can take back control of our own SendGrid account. So this is essentially what I did and have been doing. So step 1, I signed up for a paid SendGrid account. It's not expensive, and I've only spent less than $30. So I signed up for 2 different plans with the help of Alex and SH Consulting. There are 2 different plans I had to sign up for. The first one was called the email API plan. It's like the first step for. It allows you to send up to 50,000 emails a month. That's like the first plan, like the cheapest plan you can sign up for anyway. So it allows you to send up to 50,000 emails a month, and it's $19.95 a month. And then I had to sign up for the marketing campaign package as well, so that I could upload contacts to it. So I signed up for that as well, and it was $15, $15 a month. And someone asked, what is SendGrid? So SendGrid is essentially like an email marketing platform, and it allows you to send emails on a higher volume scale. And I'm just doing, I didn't send 50,000 emails. I'm doing this very slowly, and I'm about to show you in a second, but I did it on what we call a warm-up schedule. So SendGrid just allows you as a business to send emails at higher volume. And I signed up for my own personal SendGrid account to improve our deliverability, rather than relying on the CRM's own personal SendGrid account. Chuck, I think I see that you raised your hand.
Yeah, when you did the SendGrid account, now is that automatically pulling any new additions from Follow Up Boss into that SendGrid account, or is that a whole different process that then has to be done?
It will after I show you in a second, but right now I'm signing up for SendGrid separate from Follow Boss.
And so then you're always importing a list into SendGrid then currently.
Yes. Yeah. Whenever I sign up for SendGrid, if I were to just immediately connect it to Follow Up Boss, I would completely ruin my reputation. Because if I were to connect SendGrid as like a brand new user, and connect it to Follow Up Boss, I'm sending, like you just saw, I'm sending 8,000 emails a week. And I need to slowly ramp up my send volume. And so as a brand new user with SendGrid and with these, even though I have like an established domain email account that I've been using for like 5-6 years, but I'm a brand new SendGrid user. If I just randomly, if email providers see that I'm using SendGrid as a brand new SendGrid user, and they see that I'm sending large volumes of 8,000 to 10,000 emails a week, I'm going to immediately destroy my reputation. So I needed to keep it separate from Follow Up Boss initially and slowly ramp it up, if that makes sense.
Okay. So then you're segmenting a smart list inside Follow Up Boss so you know who you've already uploaded in?
Yeah, I'm about to show you in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just showing step 1, signing up for SendGrid.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. And someone asked, is it similar to MailChimp? Yes and no, and I don't recommend MailChimp at all. MailChimp is an email newsletter platform where you can make pretty emails, which is not what I recommend doing, because when you create the pretty emails, that's when emails start to go into promotional folders and spam folders. SendGrid is more about plain text emails. And also SendGrid has a lot more protection in place for security and deliverability. So MailChimp, to put it plainly, has a much lower deliverability rate than SendGrid. So SendGrid has a lot more protocols in place to have a higher deliverability. Constant Contact is MailChimp. I'm not as familiar with Constant Contact as MailChimp. I just know that SendGrid rules above the rest. So I would recommend SendGrid above anybody else. And if you were to talk to Alex, who is the email deliverability expert, he is in Poland, and this is what he does all day, every day, with not only email deliverability, but also email security. He would say that SendGrid rules above all when it comes to email deliverability, email reputation, and email security, so that you're protecting yourself from getting your email spoofed, and you're protecting yourself from, like when I say spoofed, I don't know if you've ever been a victim of this, but it's happening more and more often where someone will pretend to be you with just like one letter off from your email address, requesting like wire instructions or something. And it's unfortunately happening more and more often. Alex will send me screenshots, and it's unfortunate, but it's happening. And people who use other platforms are more prone to that. So yeah, so step 1, I signed up for SendGrid. I paid for these 2 packages. the email API, which this is the cheapest package here, $19.95 a month, and then the marketing campaign, which just allows you to upload people to SendGrid. And then Alex sent me a personalized warm-up schedule. It was like a 2-week warm-up schedule where I was send a single email every day to a different number of people. So day 1 was like 15, then day 2 was 20, day 3 was 25, then day 4 was, it was just slowly ramping up. Then it was 30, then it was 50, then it was just, somewhere around there where you were just slowly adding more and more people to your list of people. So this is how I did it. In Follow Up Boss, I figured out what type of email I was sending. So for me personally, I already had a batch email I wanted to send. I was already planning to send some type of batch email to our database. So instead of sending it to all 300 people at once, it was going to be an unfortunate, painful process of sending it to 300 people over the course of 3 weeks instead of 300 people all on the same day. But it's well worth it to get my deliverability back from 70% to 100 again. So I would slowly export people from Follow Up Boss, and I would select to export all columns. So you would do this from your CRM. You would export small groups of people. So here's an example. I'm exporting 22 people. Just this one time, I exported 22 people. I would tag them to make sure I didn't export them again. I would export all columns. And then when I did the export, I would only keep the emails in the export, the email addresses. I didn't need anything else. I didn't need the names. I didn't need the address. I didn't need the notes. I just kept the email addresses in the export. Steve, I see that your hand's up.
Yes, it is. So the only way that you really know about your deliverability is that report that you get once a week from whatever service that is that you pay for to send that to you, right?
Yes, and the only really, I also only knew that emails were going to spam because people were telling me they were going to spam.
Okay, and part 2, I use Follow Up Boss, as you know, but I used to put a lot of stock in the Follow Up Boss when they showed the email was open. But then recently I saw a comment that said that's not accurate because it's probably a spam filter opening the email, and you can't even really use that to see if the customer opened the email or not.
Yeah, I don't really look at open rates anymore. It's like an Apple thing that happened last year or 2 years ago, where anyone who has an iPhone or the Mail app, it just is the Mail app is automatically opening every email. It's not even the person doing it. So yeah, I don't really look at open rates anymore. I just look at response rates.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's not just like a specific thing to this CRM. It's to any email provider you're using that's tracking open rates. It's because of the update that the Mail app with Apple did. Cindy.
Yeah, so when you're doing this export, you're doing it as a CSV. And when you said you did that, you only kept the email columns, not even the name, no other columns. Can you kind of help us understand that? Because part of the problem is if you tag them, wouldn't you want to know which, John Doe at whatever his email is, wouldn't you want to have his name and his email in those columns?
No, I'm just exporting the email addresses to then import into SendGrid to email them. So I'm not using like merge fields or anything when I'm emailing from SendGrid at this point. So let me try to show an example of an export I did. Bear with me, I didn't have one at the ready, so let me find one. I think I called it this. It's called, yeah. share this tab. So when you initially, and everyone's export is going to look different if you're not using Follow Up Boss as your CRM. Can you see this, the Excel share tab?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So when I export it, I upload it to Google Sheets, and this is what it looks like, and it looks crazy. So this is what it looks like when you initially export it, and the rows are ridiculously big because it's pulling in what all the notes say. But I remove all of the columns except for email. So like email 1 is an email address, but I remove type because type might say home or something. And then I'll keep email 2, but I remove type. I remove phone numbers and everything. You might have emails in relationships. So I remove address information. But if you have relationships, you'll remove, this says first name. So I remove first name, last name, type. Type would just be like spouse. I remove phone number, but I would keep email. And then once I narrow it down to only show email 1, email 2, relationship email, relationship 2 email, relationship 3 email, just depending on how many relationships you have. Once you narrow it down to only have emails, this is where having an assistant is very helpful. If you have one that's tech savvy, I ended up just doing this myself. I just found it therapeutic to do something easy anyway. I would take all of the email addresses and then put it all in one long column here in a separate sheet. And then I would remove the original sheet. And then I would be left with like maybe 50 email addresses. And then I would export that new file with only one column where all of the email addresses are in one column. I would export that into a CSV. And then let me go to Follow Up Boss really fast. In your CRM, if you don't use Follow Up Boss, just somewhere in your CRM, after you do the export, let's just pretend I had just exported these 13 people. I would keep a running list to keep track of who I had exported, so I'm not exporting the same people and over and over again. I would tag them to say, like I exported to SendGrid, so that I exclude those people in future exports. I would search out the next batch of people and I would exclude people tagged already as exported to SendGrid, if that makes sense. But after I would export this Google Sheet to a CSV file, then what I would do is go to the website called Quick Email Verification. Have any of you all used something like a quick email verification or Zero Bounce or some type of website that looks for bad email addresses?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so the reason for this is to remove any bad email addresses so you don't get a bunch of bounces, because the more bounces you get, the more you hurt the reputation of your email. So this is what quick email verification looks like. You would upload the CSV file. And maybe just find one like this. And then you would click start, and then it would just start searching. I'm not going to do it because it would use 400 credits, but you would click start and then it would start scanning every email address. And then once it's done, it would show the results. So the green part of this bar means that 97.8% of the email addresses are good. And then the orange and then the light blue are bad or unverified. And then when you click download, when you download, you're downloading the verified, safe to send email addresses. And you only want to email the email addresses that are good emails, essentially. You don't want to email the invalid email addresses or the unknown, or some of them are like spam trap email addresses, things like that. You only want to email the safe to send email addresses, because if the other ones bounce, then you immediately hurt the reputation of your domain and your SendGrid account. Let me go back.
So Elena, what's the website that we have to go to do that at?
It's called Quick Email Verification. And it's super cheap. You can verify 5,000 email addresses for $35. So I would run each time I did an export, I would run through and make sure I'm not including people that had bad email addresses, which I did not do the first time. So that was a learning lesson. When I was working with Alex to get his help and advice with doing a warm up, my first time I did it, I forgot to do the quick email verification. I'm trying to find the one that I sent. It was a super small list. It was 13 people that I sent it to, and it had a bounce. And I said, how did I have a bounce? And I was only 13 people. It was past clients. It's people I know. How did I have a bounce? And you said, even if it's people you know, people all the time cancel email addresses. So it's best to use quick email verification. So I started doing that afterward, because with each bounce, let me change this tab. With each bounce, here's the one I sent where it had a list of 14 people and 13 delivered because of the one bounce. Each bounce that you get, it drops your reputation score. So my reputation score is 98% instead of 100 because I have had a couple of bounces. So each bounce you get, it hurts your reputation. So you want to keep your reputation as high as possible, because the lower your reputation, the more likely you go into promotion folders, and then the more likely you go to spam, if that makes sense. So higher reputation, the more likely you stay in the primary folder, essentially. So this is, again, where it's super helpful to have an admin or an assistant do this for you, so you don't have to do this busy work. I have a very bad habit of not trusting other people to do this work, so I did this myself, even though I have an admin, and even though I know my admin is very capable of doing this. But I look at this page every day now just to make sure our reputation is around 98, 99%, so that we're in the primary folder now. And you can see so far our single sends, it's like 13 people, 14 people, 36 people for our initial sends to do a slow warm up so far. And someone asked if it'll be recorded. Yes, it'll be recorded so that you can rewind and watch back and all that stuff. Steve.
Yeah. So what's the name of the company that you get that deliverability report from? And is that something that can connect to Follow Up Boss, or can you only do that if you have a separate paid email?
Let me find out the name. I did not set it up myself. So I couldn't tell you how to set it up. Postmark. Let me send you the website. I'll send you the website, but I did not set it up myself, so I wouldn't be able to send you instructions on how to do it. Hopefully it's easy.
Okay.
But they send me a weekly email. You can see here, DMARC weekly digest of our deliverability. So there's one, and then there's the next one, 99%. And it goes into all of these fancy things. I have no idea what it means, but I just like to look at the very top number.
Okay.
That gives me the nice big number there. That's the 1% that didn't deliver. Cindy.
So having postmarkapp.com, you actually had Alex set that up for you, did you say?
Yes, and he told me he's working on a more robust program himself that will give you more insights, but he said in a few months he'll have his own.
So can you give us an idea what kind of cost it was for him to set that up for you?
I don't remember. He set it up 6 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's been a while.
It's
Okay.
been a while. Okay, so far, step 1, I signed up for SendGrid and paid for those 2 packages. So that was step 1 and 2. Step 3, I started exporting very small lists of people. And as I was doing the exports, I tagged them as I went in the CRM just to make sure I didn't export them again and again. After I did the export, I only kept the email addresses and I consolidated them all into one column in the spreadsheet. Then once I did that, I uploaded them to quick email verification, where it would finish the upload and finish checking for bad emails. Then I would take that list and only keep the ones that quick email verification said were the good emails. And then I would go into SendGrid and upload them. So in SendGrid, I have a screenshot, but I'll just show you real fast how you do that in SendGrid. In SendGrid, you go to contacts. And I like to make everything as clean as possible to see every list I uploaded. So each time I did it, I created a list. You can see I did it 9 times for this newsletter I sent and then 4 times for this one. So each time I uploaded a new list, I created a list. So I did create new list. So first on the left-hand side, just to go to the beginning, on the left-hand side, I clicked marketing and then I clicked contacts and then I clicked create new list. And I'll just call it some test list. Save list, and then you can upload. There's the test list. Then you can click on that, and then you can upload the CSV of the good email addresses. Once you upload the CSV of the good email addresses, that list is now a selectable list to send your newsletter to, your email to.
So are you sending the emails then through Follow Up Boss, or are you sending them through SendMark?
Through SendGrid right now. For now, this is a temporary thing, and I do want to point out this is a temporary thing I went through for 3 weeks. So yeah, I set this up through SendGrid. So this is the email that I created in SendGrid. It technically has 2 links. The first one is a video. So the video itself is a link. And then the second one is the Google form I wanted people to fill out. So that was the second link here. So my newsletter had 2 links here, but I stayed at the 3 and under mark there. I made sure to stay at the 3 and under link mark. So when you create the email in SendGrid, it's fairly easy to do. It's like a drag and drop email creator. You go to marketing, single sends, create a single send. And I didn't want to spend too much time figuring out how to create a pretty email. So I just used the design editor and then did clicked build and then added a text. And then I just wrote out what the email said. And then somehow I figured, whoops, I pushed the wrong button. Somehow I messed around long enough to figure out how to embed a video. I wish I recorded myself figuring out how to do it because I don't remember how I did it. But somehow I figured out how to embed that video from Loom. And but the other email just was plain text. And then once I created the email, you can name the template here. Select the from sender, the subject line of the email, and then select the list that you just uploaded. So that would be the test list if I had uploaded anybody. Unsubscribe, just use like the global unsubscribe. This really wouldn't affect anything until you have started to send emails. Right now, you don't have anyone unsubscribed in SendGrid. And then you can either send immediately or you can schedule it. You can also test it. I tested it just to see what it would look like first. I sent an email to myself before I scheduled it in the top right corner before I scheduled it to myself to the list of people. So yeah, and then after you schedule it and send it, then it populates under marketing single sends with a green dot as one of the sent emails. If you schedule it, this dot is blue and it says that it's scheduled for date and time. Yeah, so that's how many emails we've sent so far with this warm-up schedule.
So Elena, you won't be able to see through Follow Up Boss any of the emails that you sent because, like right now, I can see who I've sent to in Follow Up Boss going through SendGrid. I won't be able to see that anymore, correct?
Right, not for this temporary time, not for these 2-3 weeks that you're doing this.
But in the future, I may?
Yes. Yep, I'm about to get to that. Yep, because right now SendGrid is not connected to the CRM. And then as you're sending these emails, I would religiously look at the reputation and the report each time you send it. Unsubscribes is not bad. It's actually good because you're getting engagement and clicks. Unsubscribe does not hurt your reputation at all. The only thing that hurts your reputation are bounces and spam reports. Spam reports is the worst, but bounces is also bad. So that's why we use quick email verification to remove bad emails and to remove spam traps.
Elena, did I hear you correctly when you said SendGrid is not connected to your CRM Follow Up Boss?
Right now it is not. We will eventually.
Will eventually, okay. But SendGrid is more appropriate for large volume emails. Would you agree with that?
Nope.
No?
Mm-mm. Nope, you don't have to have a large number of emails to use SendGrid.
Okay. All right.
I
Thank you.
mean, if you send 100 or 200, it qualifies for SendGrid. 100 to 200 a week, that would qualify for SendGrid. And when I say 100 to 200, that could be manual or via drip campaign or newsletter or batch email combined.
The reason I asked is I have Follow Up Boss connected to my Keller Williams email for about 3+ years now. However, I'm adding an independent website that on a domain name, on my own domain name, and I am still splitting hairs between whether to go with the like the Google Suites for said domain name and use that. But yeah, I might be getting analysis paralysis to some degree, but I can't have. And if there's anybody else from Keller Williams on here, forgive me. I can't deal with command, and I don't use command for sending emails. Okay, Gary, if you're out there listening, don't shoot the messenger. So yeah, I use my Gmail. I use Follow Up Boss, but I only stay on command to get paid. And my command website is only good for bots that want to engage in a real estate transaction using WeChat or, pig butchering or crypto. So I am going to be using Agent Fire for the website hosting for building and Real Scout, which I've got partially integrated.
Yeah. I will say, I'm only doing this because it's just now happening with the spam reports. It went well for 4 years without the need for me to do this. So that's why I'm only doing this because I started asking people, did you receive the email? And then they would say no, or it was in spam. So I recommend, like, if you have some other form of communication method, like text message or Facebook or some other platform to communicate with someone, just try to ask them, like, I sent you an email, did you receive it? And then if you start to get reports that, hey, oh, I found it, but it was in my spam, or, oh, I found it, but it was in my promotions folder or junk mail, that can be your indication that you may need to go this extra step. This didn't start happening until 4 years into this. So I didn't worry about this until that started happening, because initially it wasn't happening.
Copy that. Thanks.
Yep. But yeah, with your KW email, I definitely recommend switching over to your Google Workspace. It used to be called G Suite. Now they rebranded to Google Workspace. I recommend using your Google Workspace email account with your CRM and with your email rather than KW. If you're worried about losing track of emails that you receive to your email address from KW, you should be able to create an auto forward rule from your KW email to your new one. And then you just get all of your emails there. That's what I did. I have like 4 old email addresses I no longer use, and they just all automatically forward to the current one I use. And I don't miss any emails from those ones.
I
Okay.
agree with that, Elena, because I've been doing that for years. I've always had my own versus Remax. And I have my Remax account, but once I went to my own domain and my own G Suites, now Workspace, I seem to have a lot better luck for deliverability for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. So like when I started this presentation, I said what I did initially with creating the domain and setting it up properly, which I did not do well by myself, which is why I hired SH Consulting. After I did that and I followed best practices and that went well, that's what I recommend doing initially. I don't recommend doing this stuff unless you start to receive reports from people. If you ask them, did you receive it? And then they say, oh, went to spam or junk, or I can't find it.
But it might not be a bad idea just to be able to see from the verification of what is a bounced email or not, even if you're not having troubles or that you know of.
Yeah.
It might not even be bad just because of that as a practice to be able to see what's happening to your list.
Yeah. I love seeing the reputation score. That's awesome to see that I have a 98% reputation score in SendGrid. Now I started pulling my hair out, trying to stay on that exact slow cadence. So you can see I did not do a very good job of the warm up. I went from 13 to 14 to 73 on day 3. So I didn't do a perfect job, but it still did its purpose good enough. So I went 73, 128. And then the next one, I didn't send 36. So it was 36 plus 95 people, 102, 97, 200, 125. So I did the warm up close enough, good enough. And I did this for like 2.5 weeks. And then I was done. I didn't have to do it in the EU. So you don't have to do this. It's just temporary. Once I was done, I connected SendGrid to my CRM. Most CRMs, I believe, have a SendGrid integration. So make sure that they have a SendGrid integration before you do this. So it's very easy. Once you're done with the warm up, it's literally like 2 clicks in your CRM and Follow Up Boss. So here, if you go like admin, integrations, there's a big SendGrid button at the top. And then there's a very easy instructions. You click this button here. It takes you exactly to the page you need to grab the API key, which is just a very long code to copy. And then you paste it here, and then you click connect, and then you're done. And now SendGrid is connected to Follow Boss. But the reason for the warm up is so that you want to make sure that the reputation is nice and good before you connect it, because you're already sending a lot of emails from your CRM. And so you want to make sure it's all warmed up and you have a good reputation before you connect to Follow Boss. That was my hesitation for signing up for SendGrid and connecting it to Follow Bosses. I didn't want to sign up and connect it immediately and then have the reputation completely destroyed. And then I would be in a terrible position and I would have to create a whole new domain again. So that's why I went through that whole warm-up process. Cindy.
So once and you're in this warm-up process, can you still be sending out some things, your onesie, twosies, or your pending contracts or whatever, at that time besides just going through send out, or are you suggesting we throw everything through send out?
No, now I don't send anything from SendGrid anymore. Yep, that was the next thing I was going to say. Now I don't log into SendGrid anymore. I just have the account to connect it to Follow Boss for the purpose of deliverability, but I no longer export from Follow Boss. I no longer log into SendGrid. I no longer do any of that. I just send the emails directly from the CRM to either send it manually or through Action Plan. And I just send the batch emails directly from Follow Boss now. I just select the batch email and send it there.
But my question is during that warm-up time, can I still be sending them out through Follow Up Boss, my Wednesday, Tuesdays, and all that, and having my other those warm-up people
Yes.
send up? So does that work okay?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's why we don't connect SendGrid to Follow Up Boss immediately, so that you're not hurting the SendGrid reputation, essentially.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. I just don't recommend sending thousands of emails from Follow Up Boss. And then after I did that connection, I'm still following best practices. So I didn't all of a sudden start sending thousands of emails. I'm still doing slow bump ups because now that I've connected it to Follow Up Boss, I'm probably sending on average 200 emails a day when I take in consideration the drip campaign emails I'm sending. So now that I'm sending just by default 200 emails a day without the batch emails I'm sending, I'm adding on top of that maybe 100 emails, 100 email addresses via batch email, and then ramping up from there until it's warmed up to be able to send a batch email of 500 and then 1,000 and then beyond. So here are the free resources. Oops, I want to prevent you from having to scan a bunch of QR codes. So I'm going to paste the list of all of these websites, so you don't have to scan 5 QR codes. So let me grab the list and post it in the chat. So from top to bottom, the top URL is a list of templates if you are looking for ideas of types of emails and texts to send to avoid the spam and promotional folders. These are emails that avoid spam trigger words and their plain text for different categories of new leads and nurturing and past clients. The next link are spam trigger words to avoid. That was the article I showed towards the beginning of the call. You don't have to be religious with it. Just get a general idea of words to avoid, like obligation is a big one, like no obligation. The next link is who I had mentioned that helped me set up initially my paid email account and configure it for not only deliverability, but also security so that I avoid getting my email spoofed. And then help me again with setting up SendGrid. And then the last 2 links are the 2 websites I worked most with throughout this part 2 process the past few weeks. Link number 4 is the direct link to SendGrid. And then link number 5 is the direct link to quick email verification. One thing I forgot to mention, after I connected SendGrid to Follow Up Boss, I kept the paid plan for, let me show you, under billing, I think it is. Under billing, no, products. You have to keep the email API plan. This allows you to send so many emails a month. Again, I think the lowest plan is 50,000 emails a month at $20 a month, $19.95. But once you connect SendGrid to the CRM, you no longer need to pay for the marketing campaign plan. The only reason you needed that initially was to be able to upload contacts directly to SendGrid. So I canceled that. I only paid for it for 1 month. It's pending the cancellation, which will be canceled at the end of this month. So once you connect to Follow Boss, you no longer need to pay for that. The only ongoing service you pay for after you do the warm up is the $19.95 a month for SendGrid, which allows you to send up to 50,000 emails a month. So if you end up having a mega giant database, you can continue ramping up and warm up to 50,000 or beyond. They have bigger plans beyond 50,000 a month, so long as they are opt-in leads. I do work with agents who have giant databases that are truly opt-in leads. They have hundreds of thousands of leads, so long as you do a slow warm-up in your CRM or in SendGrid. Steve.
Yeah, I just want to confirm. So there is nothing in Follow Up Boss by itself that can help with any of this, because I'm looking at my batch email report. All they tell me is how many they sent, which has no indication of how many actually got delivered. And you said the opens are irrelevant. They're not real anymore. So there's nothing here that can help with what we've been talking about today, except these external programs we're talking about, correct?
So I'm sharing my screen of our batch email report. What's most helpful here are the clicks and the bounces.
Unsubscribes are probably real, bounces are probably real, and clicks are probably real. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. And the cents, I assume that's real. They sent them. But,
Oh yes, yeah.
but we don't know anything after that. Okay.
Yeah. What's wonky is you can see here sent is 56, or recipients is 56, but sent is higher, 84. I wish Follow Up Boss would take in consideration, like, it was sent to 56 profiles in Follow Up Boss, but some of those profiles have multiple email addresses.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the sent number is higher.
Right.
So it's not really giving me a very accurate report of what my deliverability rate was. I wish it would say like number of email addresses that were included in the list, and then how many were delivered or sent, so I can get a better idea. So that's where SendGrid is super helpful, because now that it's connected, it's going to help me with keeping track of reputation and all that stuff.
Okay.
Eric.
Yeah, so I understand this right. So what about, so you have leads coming in from third-party providers, you have email addresses. What if you're using systems like Fellow and HomeBot, and your email addresses are coming into your Follow Up Boss, and then they're sending as well? Is that creating a problem? Because, like, I don't know what's bouncing with Fellow, or how do I know how their email's working?
Those providers use their own email infrastructure, so it's not affecting your personal email reputation.
Okay. So when I look in there and they show me like open rates or click rates, that's through their sending system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like Alex, actually, he just mentioned, I think they're going to make an official announcement, but he's working directly with Ylopo to improve their deliverability.
That was my next question, was Ylopo doing their own?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty neat that he's going to be working directly with them to improve their deliverability. But yeah, I don't know what those individual companies do to ensure high deliverability.
Well, even when I was with Ylopo, I used my own email. So it wasn't, a Ylopo email. It was still the kw.com that went out. But
yeah, I think they do some sort of masking. So it's technically coming from a different email address. It's like at ylopo-something. And then it gets masked as your KW email, but it's technically coming from a different email address.
okay.
Probably another SendGrid account is probably their own giant YLobo's SendGrid account. They probably have the highest email API plan that allows them to send up to 1 million emails a month or something. And that's probably why a program like YLobo sunsets listing alerts after someone doesn't open an email after so many weeks, so that they keep the email deliverability and reputation score higher. Cool. Well, as I mentioned, the third link, if you need any hands-on support, highly recommend Alex. This is, if you were to ask me, like, this is the extent of my knowledge just from talking to him and doing it myself. I am by no means like an email deliverability expert. This is just from me clicking around and trying to figuring it out, plus talking to Alex. So if you need any hands-on support, he is my go-to for all things security, email deliverability, and I highly recommend him. I've known him and worked with him for the past 5-6 years, and he's awesome. So yeah, it's recorded, so I'll make sure this gets sent out to everyone, and be sure to join the Facebook group as well. This is where this recording will be posted, as well as where we host other future free webinars. Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining this call.
Thank you, Elena. This was really informative. Overwhelming, but informative.
Yeah. Take care. Thank you all.